Hey everyone, it's Lisa Mears here, and today I'm going to be making 20 cards with the brand new Doodlebug Design Gingerbread Kisses paper collection. So I'm going to quickly go through the paper collection here with you. I will say that this has been such a popular collection, just as with all of Doodlebug Design's Christmas collections. They're always so popular because they're so cute. But I love the gingerbread theme with this collection, and that's what caught my eye is all of the cute little gingerbread boys and girls and gingerbread houses. It is so much fun. If you like this collection, I will have links down in the description box of this YouTube video for all of the products that I'm using today for my cards. And if you have had your eye on this collection, I will say that it has just restocked at several of the stores that I am affiliated with. So again, check the description box of this YouTube video for those links. And I also realized that a lot of you have already probably have made your Christmas cards, but this is a super cute collection, and if you can get a hold of it, you can use it for next year's Christmas cards. So I picked up the 12 by 12 collection pack to make my cards. They do have a 6 by 6 paper pad for those of you that like the smaller prints, but I chose to get the larger paper just because I am going to be making some slimline cards in addition to some A2 size cards. So I like to use the larger papers when I make slimline cards because slimline cards are 8.5 inches wide. So it allows me to have more pattern paper on my cards. So in addition to the 12 by 12 pattern paper pack, I also picked up the 12 by 12 Petite prints, and that's what you see here. And these are coordinating colors, and they have very subtle prints. So there are some polka dots, there's some wood grain, there are some florals, but they're usually all tone on tone when you pick up these petite print packs. And these are great coordinating colors for the pattern paper pack, whether you have the 6 by 6 paper pad or the 12 by 12 paper pad. These go great with both of them. So there's all of the coordinating colors from reds, pinks, greens, browns, yellows, and blues. I also picked up these puffy icons. These are little puffy stickers. There's some gingerbread, boys and girls, and Santa, and some peppermints, and some gumdrops. These are great to add just some extra touches to your cards. And I've also picked up the odds and ends pack and the Chit Chat pack. So lots of die cut pieces in here. I'm first going to show you the odds and ends pack. There is 139 die cut pieces in this pack, and I love these because you can make some really cute scenes with these die cut pieces. So I'm going to lay these out here for you so you can see everything that's included. There are so many gingerbread houses that you can put on cards, and the gingerbread boys and the girls, a sleigh with presents, and then there are lots of different Santas in this collection. Here's a little Santa riding a truck delivering presents. There's some baking die cuts as well. Some more gingerbread houses there, and there's this adorable train with the gingerbread boy driving the train. Lots of candy canes. There's also lots of little gumdrops and peppermint, so little embellishments that you can use really to decorate your heart out with this gingerbread theme. Okay, so let's take a look at the Chit Chat pack. This has all of the sentiments that you can use for your cards. So I'll go ahead and lay everything out here. There are some smaller banner sentiments, and then there's also some larger sentiments. And these larger sentiments can be used for your larger slimline size cards. You can also use a lot of what you see here if you're into making albums or scrapbooks. You can use a lot of this stuff on your albums and scrapbooks as well. There is so much more included in this collection that I did not purchase. So if you want to see the entire collection, take a look at the links down in the description box below, and I will link over to the entire collection for you. So for my first card, I'm starting with a Slimline card, and I'm using one of the papers from the Petite paper pack. This is the white with the teal polka dots, and I cut this down to 8 1/4 by 3 1/2. And I'm also going to bring in one of these borders from this border sheet, and I just use my paper trimmer to trim down this border. And I'm going to add the border to the bottom of this card panel. So you can see with the die cuts that I've picked out, I'm going to make this a train card. So I wanted to have a border here at the bottom of this card panel so that it looks like my train is riding on a train track. And I thought that this particular striped border was perfect for that. So I picked out 4 pieces to my train, and I think there are at least 2 other pieces that are included that are part of the train. But even making this a slimline card, I did not have room for the other 2 pieces. So I'm just using what you see here. And I was just trying to decide which order I wanted these pieces to go. And then once I made my decision, I went ahead and glued them down to my card. I also needed to decide which sentiment I wanted to use. So I have the Happy Holly Days call out that I can use, or I can use one of the banner sentiments. And I chose to use the call out. I thought that was super cute to add there, like it's coming out of the gingerbread man's mouth as he's driving the train. And then I'm also going to bring in some of the gumdrops from the Puffy sticker pack and just add a gumdrop to each one of those little train cars. And then I'm going to add some of the candy canes, like the gingerbread men are holding those candy canes. I think that's super cute. I'm going to also put one in the driver's hand. And then I'm going to add this to another panel. This is also from the Petite prints. I cut this down to 8 1/2 by 3 1/2 inches, but I did cut the center out with a rectangle die just so that I can save that middle cardstock. I think this cardstock is so pretty to waste it underneath another layer of cardstock. So I went ahead and just die cut the center out so I could save it for another card. And then I'm just going to add my decorated layer right on top of that. And all of this is on a slimline white card base. So my card base is 8 1/2 by 3 1/2 inches. So that completes my first card. For my next card, I have the Sprinkles pattern paper that I cut to 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And I'm going to start out by adding my banner sentiment right at the top. Then I'm going to add a gingerbread house. I love these gingerbread house die cuts. They are so cute. They are all decked out with the gumdrops on the top and the lollipops in the snow. So before I add that gingerbread house, I did add a scalloped border that I die cut out of some white cardstock, and I added that behind. So I added it first so that it's behind my gingerbread house. So it looks like I have a little snowy hill behind that house, and then I'm taking another snowy border and adding it to the front of that gingerbread house. Here I'm just going to trim off the bottom of that border so that the edge is even with the Sprinkles pattern paper. And then I'm going to take this border sticker. This is from the sticker sheet from the 12 by 12 collection pack, and I added it there at the bottom of that snow. And then I'm going to add a gingerbread man puffy sticker right at the front door. And I'm going to add gumdrops so that they are aligned with the curve of my snow. And I'm going to add, I think, about 5 or 6 here, however many are going to fit, and just align them there with the curve of that snow. So anything extra that I use on my cards, whether it's dies or other product, I will have linked also in the description box below in case you want to replicate any of these cards to exactly as I've done. You see the supplies that I've used. So if you're interested in that scallop border, it is a die from Pretty Pink Posh, and that will be linked below. So I have a piece of the pattern paper from the Petite prints collection, and I cut that to 4¼ by 5½ inches, and again I cut the center out just to save that cardstock, and then I'm going to add my decorated panel to the front. I think this turned out so cute. I think this is one of my favorite cards, and I actually made 3 of these, and I changed up the color of the Petite prints paper that I used depending on the color of the roof of the gingerbread house. So you can see the green roof with the green Petite prints paper. For this one I used the yellow pattern paper to match the yellow roof, and for this one I used the teal paper to match the teal roof. So for my next card, I have this red grid paper. This is also from the Petite Prints collection pack. I cut that to 5¼ by 4 inches, and I'm adding a piece of the sprinkles paper at the bottom, so just a border of that sprinkles paper, and I cut that to 5¼ by 3/8 inches. I'm going to add my Merry Christmas banner right over top of that sprinkles border. And then I'm going to create my scene. I love this collection because I can create the cutest little Christmas scenes with all of these die cut pieces. So here I'm using Santa as my centerpiece, so I'm making sure he's centered on my card, and then I'm going to add all of the other die cut pieces surrounding him. So the Christmas tree is going to go in back of Santa, and then I'll add Santa to the card, and then I'm going to have some presents in front of him. So a couple on the left in front of the Christmas tree and one on the right side. And then to balance this out a little bit more, I'm going to add a couple of hearts in the open area there on the right side, and then I'll add a small heart at the top left. Okay, so I'm going to add this to a piece of the green paper. I cut that to 5½ by 4¼ I'm adding that to a white A2 size card base, and then I'll add my decorated panel right to the top, and that will complete this card. For my next card, I cut down the heart pattern paper to 8¼ by 3¼ inches. And I also have a piece of white cardstock that I cut to 8¼ inches wide, and I just cut a little snow hill from the top. Now, if you had a Slimline snowy border die that you wanted to use, you can totally use that, but it was just easier for me just to use my scissors here and trim that down. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to my heart panel. So creating a little bit of snow. And then it is a little bit long there on the left, so I will just use my scissors and trim that off. Okay, I'm going to create the cutest little gingerbread scene on this card with the gingerbread house, the gingerbread man, the Christmas trees. I have some candy pieces. This card is going to be so cute. So I'm going to go ahead and position all my die cuts where I want them, and then I'll start gluing them down. So I'm going to start with the large gingerbread house, and I'll add that towards the right side of that panel. Next, I'm going to add the Christmas tree on the far left because that tree is going to be positioned in back of the other die cut, so I want to add that first. And then once that tree is added, I'll go ahead and add the next die cut. This is with the gingerbread man with the gumdrops, and there's also a little Christmas tree and a peppermint, so I'll add that to the next open space there. And then I'm going to add a few little candy pieces, so add another little peppermint. I'll add a little heart. For the sentiment, I was debating on two different options. I have the So Very Sweet Call Out sentiment, and I also have the banner sentiment. So I was trying to decide which one I wanted to use, which I really liked the circles sentiment, but since I wasn't able to get that call out exactly positioned right where I needed it to be on my card, I went ahead and just snipped that part off to make it a complete oval. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to that empty area right above the gingerbread man. And then I'm going to use some of the snowflake puffy stickers and add them to my card. I cut a piece of the brown pattern paper from the Petite Prints paper pad, cut that down to 8.5 by 3.5 inches, and I'm adding it to a Slimline card base. And then I'll add my decorated panel right to the top of that. I just love how this card turned out. I think it's so cute. And I know I said that the other gingerbread house cards were my favorite, but I think this one might be my favorite. I just love this one so much. For my next card, I have this piece of white cardstock, and again, I'm cutting a little snowy hill out of the top with my scissors. I'm going to add it to the snowflake pattern paper. I cut that snowflake paper to 5.25 by 4 inches, and that's the same width as that white cardstock. And then I'm going to add one more little snowy hill at the very bottom because it's going to make it look like I have layers of snow. So I'm going to add this candy cane sleigh in the snow. I think that's so cute. It's actually shaped like a candy cane, and there's the gingerbread girl and Christmas tree and cupcake and presents. And then I'm going to put Santa there too, but before I add Santa down, I am going to add some foam tape to him on the back. I want him popped up so that it looks like he's standing in front of the sleigh. So I'll go ahead and add him to the card. And for my sentiment, I added the banner, Santa Claus is coming to town. I'm just going to put that there at the top. And I'll be layering this onto one of the red diagonal stripe pieces of pattern paper from the Petite Prints collection. I cut that to 5.5 by 4.25 inches, and I added that to an A2 size card base. And then I'll add my decorated panel right to the top of that. But I'm going to go back and bring out my puffy stickers and add some of the puffy stickers to this card. You can see I put a gumdrop, candy cane, little peppermint to finish off this cute little scene. For my next card, I'm making another slimline card. So I have this piece of pattern paper with the brown with the colorful dots. I cut that piece to 8.25 by 3.25 inches, and I'm going to frame this out with a Slimline Scallop frame die from Pretty Pink Posh. I just die cut it out of some white cardstock, and I'm going to add it to this polka dot piece of paper. It's going to fit perfectly because it is the same size that I cut the paper to. So it is the 8.25 inches wide by 3.25 inches tall. And now I'm just going to lay out my die cuts. I'm going to add some of the cupcakes and candy jars. And I'm also adding one of the large sentiments, sugar and spice. So I'm just positioning everything where I want it, and then I'll go ahead and glue everything down. I also have a piece of the pink and white diagonal stripe Petite print paper. I cut that to 8.5 by 3.5 inches, and I'm adding it to a slimline card base. And then I'll add my decorated panel to the front of that. And then I'm going to add 3 of the pink peppermint stickers to the front of this card, and that will complete this card. For my next card, I have this brown sugar cookie paper. I love the little designs on here. They're so cute. And to make this look more like a sugar cookie, I am adding some of my gingerbread scrapbook.com ink to the edges, just to make this look like maybe it's a little bit toasty around the edges. I did cut this panel down to 3 3/4 inches by 5 inches. I also have this striped paper, and I cut that to 3 3/8 by 3/8 inch, and I just cut a little diagonal strip out of the end of it, and I'm going to layer that underneath a banner sentiment that says warm and cozy wishes. I'm going to be using 2 of the hot cocoa mugs, and I'll be adding those to the center of the card. I'm going to put a candy cane behind one of the mugs, and I'm also going to put some of the puffy stickers, the little snowflake puffy stickers, on the center of each one of those mugs. And real quick, I want to let you know that I do have a coordinating blog post that will have up close pictures of every single card that I make in this video today. It will also have card measurements, and any additional supplies will be over there as well. And the link to that blog post will be in the description box of this YouTube video. You can also head over to lisamearsdesigns.com. That's my blog. But if you want the specific blog post link, check the description box. Okay, so I cut down a piece of the pink and white polka dot paper to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches and added that to an A2 size card base, and then added my decorated panel on top. For my next card, I have a piece of the sprinkles pattern paper. I cut that to 4 inches by 1/2 inch. I'm going to add it to the bottom of this yellow pattern paper. The yellow paper is cut to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. And I'm going to add that to a piece of white cardstock. So my white cardstock is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. Then I also have a piece of that red floral petite print paper. I cut that to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, and I'm going to add my panel right on top of that. So I have a little bit of red peeking out the sides. Okay, for my die cuts, this is going to be a little bit about baking. So I have my apron, I have the cookie sheet with the cookies, and I have a sentiment that says cookies for Santa. So I'm just going to layer those up and add them to my card front. And I'm going to add a little holly leaf right there to the front of the card. I'm going to bring in some puffy stickers, so a couple hearts. I'm going to add 3 of the hearts to the front of the card, and then I'll add this to an A2 size card base, and that will complete this card. For my next card, I'm making another slimline card. So I am cutting a little snowy border out of this white cardstock. The white cardstock, the width of it, I cut to 8 1/4 inches. And I'll add it to the bottom of this yellow and white piece of pattern paper. That yellow and white paper, I cut to 8 1/4 by 3 1/4 inches. And then I'm going to add this scallop sticker border to the bottom of that snow. I think this little mail truck with Santa Claus and the gingerbread men and all the presents hanging out is super cute. So I'm going to add that to the card. And for the sentiment, I'm going to be using the Here Comes Santa words. I'm going to add a holly leaf on the A as well as on the S in Santa. And I'm also going to add a few hearts to the card. And then I'm going to add this to a piece of the red diagonal stripe Petite Prints paper. I cut that to 8 1/2 by 3 1/2 inches. I'm going to add that to a slimline white card base, and that's going to complete this card. For my next card, I have these sprinkles pattern paper that I cut to 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And I also have this gumdrops border. This is from the border sheet from the 12 by 12 paper pad, and I'm using that at the bottom of the sprinkles paper, and it's going to end up being 5¼ inches wide, which is the same width as that sprinkles paper. I'm going to add this curvy teal border sticker right over top of that. So just where that border of the gumdrops meets the sprinkles paper, I'm just going to cover that up using this sticker, and then I'll just snip off the ends. I'm going to use the large word sweet, and 2 of the gingerbread girls will be added to the top of that. So this card doesn't necessarily have to be for Christmas, because on the inside you could add a sentiment such as birthday wishes. So it would say sweet and then birthday wishes. So you could totally use it for a birthday card, and that's what I was thinking. But I didn't add a sentiment on the inside yet. I haven't decided what I'm going to use this card for, but that definitely is an option. For my next card, I have a piece of this pink and white diagonal stripe paper I cut to 5�3/8 by 3/4 inches, and I'm adding it to the bottom of the brown cookie paper that's 5�3/8 by 1/8 inch. I'm also bringing in some heart dies from Sunny Studios Stamps. I have this beautiful scallop heart die that's going to be the background, and then the layering piece for the top will be a stitched heart. So I'm going to go ahead and layer those 2 hearts together, and then I'll add them to the front of this card panel. Next, I'll go ahead and add these cute little gingerbread kids to the front of my heart, and I'm also going to add some other little heart shapes on there. I think this card is turning out super cute. And then I'll add this to an A2 size white card base, and that will complete this card. Next, I wanted to create some cards with the 3×4 inch cut-aparts that are included in the 12×12 paper pad. There are so many of these that you can use on your cards, so I wanted to give you a couple of ideas of how to use them on a card. So I went ahead and cut apart all of these 3×4 cards. Although I did not use all of them, I went ahead and cut them apart from each other just so that I can have them cut. And I also took the sheet of tags and cut those as well. Now, what's nice about these tags is that there is not a pattern on the back, so you don't have to decide if you want to use the pattern paper or the tags. Now, you can use these on your cards, or you can use them when you're wrapping your Christmas presents and include them on your presents as Christmas tags. And I used a couple on some cards, which I'll show you today, but most of them I'm actually going to save for Christmas presents and just attach them to my presents. So for my next card, I am using a cut apart that is landscape. So it's 4 inches wide by 3 inches tall. And I went ahead and took the cut apart and added it to a layer of solid red cardstock that I took from my stash. And I measured that to 4⅛ by 3⅛. So it's just 1/8 inch larger than the cut apart. The sprinkles paper is 2 7/8 by 3 3/4, and I added that to a piece of red solid cardstock that's 3 by 3 7/8. And then I also have another layer here. The red pattern paper is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8, and I'm layering that on to a piece of red solid cardstock that is 5½ by 4¼ inches. So those are my 3 layers, and now I'm just going to add them all together. So the sprinkles layer is going to be positioned off to the left side of that larger panel, and then the panel with the cut apart, that's going to go right in the center. But before I add it, I'm going to put some scrap cardstock underneath the right side so that it lays flat on the card panel once I adhere it, because right now there's more cardstock layers underneath the left side of that cut apart than there is on the right side. So adding the additional scrap cardstock underneath the right side will help elevate that cut apart so that it can lay flat on that card. I am going to add a couple of hearts at the bottom left corner of that cut apart, and then I'll add that to an A2 size white card base. So I made 2 cards using this layout, but obviously you can make more using the cut aparts that you have in the collection pack. So I also wanted to give you an idea of using one of the portrait style cut apart sheets. So here I'm layering my cut apart onto another red panel. The red panel is 4 1/8 by 3 1/8. I also have another piece of red cardstock and the diagonal stripe paper. So the pattern paper is 2 3/8 by 4 1/8, and then the red cardstock is 2 1/2 by 4 1/8. So we'll go ahead and layer those together. And then I also have a larger panel, which is the Christmas lights paper. That's 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and I'm layering that onto some red cardstock that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. So again, I have 3 different layers. So the red diagonal stripe paper is going to go across the Christmas lights paper right in the middle. And then I'm going to add the Christmas tree Merry and Bright piece right to the top. But again, just like with the last card, I am adding some scrap cardstock at the top and bottom of that panel, just because the top and bottom of that cut apart is going to be extending beyond that large piece of pattern paper that's underneath it. And I want to make sure that it lays flat on my card. So I'll go ahead and add that cut apart right to the center of that card panel, and I'll add this to an A2 size white card base. And I'll finish this up by adding a couple of my red Spellbinders Color Essential gems to the front of this card. So I created 2 cards using this particular style, but you can create a whole bunch more with all of the cut aparts that you have in this collection. For my next card, I'm going to use one of the tags from the collection pack, and I'm going to use it as a layering piece. So I have the baking pattern paper, and I cut that to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And I'm adding a piece of the teal with the white polka dot paper to the top of that. I cut the teal paper to 2 inches by 4 3/4 inches. I'll add that to the right side, and then I'm going to add my tag a little bit overlapping that and towards the left side. And then for the sentiment, I'm using the Baking Spirits Bright sentiment, and I'll add that right to the middle. I also have a piece of twine, red and white twine, that I've already tied in a bow, and I'm going to add a piece of a glue dot to the back, and I'm going to add it to my tag. I went in my stash and grabbed a piece of pink cardstock and created a card base out of that. So my card base is an A2 size card base, and I'm just adding that layer right to the top. So that will complete this card, and for my next card I'm using this piece of pattern paper, and I wanted to make sure that I got these stripes so that they were equally distributed. So I'm using a rectangle die and positioning it over the pattern paper so that I can make sure that they are centered on here, and then I'm going to die cut this pattern paper using this die. Next, I have a piece of the diagonal stripe pattern paper, and I cut that to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, and I'm just adding the large stripe piece of pattern paper right to the top of that. And now I'm just going to layer up all of my die cut pieces, including my tag. So here I'm using another one of the tags from the collection pack, and I'm using it again as a layering piece. And then I'm going to add my gingerbread girl. I have a sentiment that says, "You're so sweet." I'm going to be bringing in some of the gumdrops and the peppermint, as well as one of the snowflakes. And I'm just layering everything up, and then I will glue everything down where I want it. I'm adding a piece of twine that I tied in a bow, just adding that to the tag. And then I'm going to add a couple of the Puffy stickers to the card, so one of the gumdrops and one of the peppermints. And then I'll add this to an A2 size white card base. And that will complete this card. For my next card, I die cut some pattern paper from a scalloped rectangle die as well as a stitched rectangle die, and I'm just layering the stitched rectangle die on top of the scallop piece, and then I'm going to layer all my die cuts on top. So I'm using the Merry Everything, and I'm adding that to the bottom of the stitched rectangle die, and I'm going to have my Santa peeking out from behind the sentiment. I also have a Christmas tree that I'm going to put on his right side. I am going to put a candy cane, tuck one in there between Santa and the Christmas tree, so tuck one from behind. I was going to use those hearts, but I don't end up having room for them, so I will not be using the hearts. I'll go ahead and glue my sentiment down. I'll go ahead and add this to an A2 size white card base, and then I'm going to finish this up by adding a couple of hearts from the Puffy stickers. And that's going to complete this card, and that will complete all 20 cards that I created with the Doodlebug Design Gingerbread Kisses collection. I hope you liked my video today. I would love for you to leave me a comment and let me know which card is your favorite. If you'd like to see all up-close pictures of all of my cards, head over to my blog at lisamearsdesigns.com, and you can check the description box below for the coordinating blog post link. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you like videos like this and want to see more, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, turning on your bell notifications so that you'll be notified when I release new videos. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.